the show. I'm Sherry Schreiner. A couple things I want to talk about. I want to pick up on Friday where we left off. Everybody wants to know what happened because they had a deadline Friday by 5 p.m. Eastern. Or they were going to go into detainment, and I was talking about the Chinese elders, what some people call the Ashtar Command, the Galactic Federation, and the Ashtards, the idiots from hell, whatever you want to call them. And so we're getting tired of the delays and the stalling and the tactics. And so the boys of the Ashtar Command, Sananda, Maitreya, Germain, all the boys, have been put into detainment. And this is to ensure a couple things. First of all, we want to get the ball rolling. And trust me when I say we know these beings better than most, and they're just stalling. They're delaying. And so to ensure that they get the ball rolling and speed things up, they're going to be in detainment until one of three things happen. Now, they have access to their commanders on Earth to make these things happen, so they're not just clueless and in the dark and cut off totally from their own people. But mostly Germain, because he's the one who is the grand architect of all of this coming about, and so he has access to commanders on Earth. Now, what they need to be doing is to get these beings out of detainment. They need to push the RV. They need to announce either in America or worldwide the reevaluation of currencies, or the GCR, the global currency reevaluation, or they need to go ahead and arrive in what we call the event. And they will be let out of detainment for dress rehearsal when they get ready to arrive in the event. They will be allowed to physically arrive, but they will not be released until the actual arrival is about to take place. Until then, they sit in depravity and misery because, if you don't put a stop to the madness, they're just going to keep feasting on mankind and wasting time and bouncing the ball. That's all they do. And so we're pushing the timeline, we're pushing the time limits. Frankly, they've got to get on the pot or get off because we're tired of the delays. So all of you who think these are galactic heavenly beings, they're tall grays. They're Lilith kids. And so when they put on their human costumes and arrive looking like humanoids and call themselves ascended masters and pull off their charade, then whatever. You guys are going to end up freezer food, those who follow them, in their freezers. Okay, another thing is Second Sun, EP. Now, this is the heavenly planet I've been talking about that is in the southwest every night. And you can watch at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they start heavily chemtrailing the sunset, specifically the southwest area, the western skies. They don't want you to see this heavenly planet that lights up the southwest every night. Well, I want you guys to see it. Go out, look for this beautifully lit up star in the southwest every night. That is a heavenly planet, because that is the light that the Father will be removing sometime this year. And so I want you all to get a look at it now. It's been there for years, for eons. I caught on to it in 2008 that it was the Enoch. It was the planet Enoch described. And he will be removing that light from the earth sometime this year. So you need to go out and catch it while you can. It's a heavenly planet. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. When they're not chemtrailing it. Usually when they start chemtrailing it, about 11, 12 p.m., sometimes early, you can go out and see it. Chemtrails won't stick. They'll fade off or whatever. So I want you to get a good look at that heavenly planet. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I have videos on it. The second sun. And we call it Enoch's planet. and a star in the southwest. So just go to my YouTube channel. You can see the videos I've done on it. I want to pick up where I left off last week with Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation, because these things are quickly coming upon us, which is why we're trying to get the ball rolling. This regime coming in represents the last regime that will rule on earth, and the Antichrist, false prophet, will come out of this regime. So all you Antichrist chasers who keep trying to pin the Antichrist role on Obama or Prince William or any human, you can find it's not a human. It's one of these ascended masters. It's Sananda and Maitreya. These are the two beasts of Revelation 13. They're not even here yet, but they will be. And so, quit chasing. It's all right there. I've been screaming about this for almost 15 years. Sananda and Maitreya, the two beasts of Revelation. So, they're coming. All right, so last week I left off on the seal trumpets and the seven trumpets, or the seal judgments and the seven trumpet judgments. Because all of these happened before what we would consider the mid-tribulation period. Now, I know the churches break off the tribulation period into a 7-year tribulation period. That is not correct because they mistranslate Daniel. They put Daniel together, they put John together. It is actually 3.5 years plus about a year. So about 4.5 years for the tribulation period, the totality. It's about 4 years because the sixth seal, you have a space of silence, which I think is about 3 to 6 months. And then at the trumpets, the seventh trumpet, you have silence. I think that's another 3 to 6 months. So we have some spaces of silence. And also, when the mark of the beast is enforced, we have about 6 months, I believe, of an interim time between when the seventh trumpet, that silence starts, and the first bowl judgment begins. I think there's about 6 months, 9 months time there when the mark of the beast is enforced upon the world. And that's the stuff I've gone with with the Father, folks. I talk to him every day, and you know, for years you guys have been hearing me do shows and write articles on the coming giants, on the Locust invasion, on the Joel invasion, chapters 1 and 2, on the Revelation, the beast invasions, you got the Locust invasions, and then you have the 200 million creature invasion from the Euphrates. Now, I know the churches teach that is the Chinese army getting ready to Armageddon. That is not true. That is not true. It's not the Chinese. That is on the other side of the bowl judgments. That is not on this side. Right now we're on this side, the mid-trib. So what we have, because what I want to break down is what we have before the bulk of Christians leave the earth, because that's all they're interested in, basically. Christians always want to know, when are we leaving? When are we leaving? When is the rapture? There is no huge rapture at the beginning, like I've said. There is a small group of the elect leaving. There is the barley harvest, and then there's the first fruits harvest, barley and wheat. And so there's really no timeline for the first group that leaves, the first group of the elect. I like it at first fruits, during the first fruits festival. That runs out a year between April and May. I just like the correlations. I don't have a thus saith the Lord on it. I just like the correlations of it being the first fruit festival, because first fruit means firstborn. And who are the firstborn? The elect. Who are the elect? Who are the firstborn? The angels were the firstborn, the first created. And I've written an article, Angels in the Flesh, and there are humans here who are angels in the flesh, who were born here to fulfill a role for the Father, and then they will be taken back to him. These are the ones that the Father has given that will not be plucked out of his hand, because from heaven they came, from heaven they will return. This is this group of elect. They'll be the first ones gone. They're the ones getting ready to leave now. And I've said to watch for 2 events. The one event is the elect leaving. The other event is this whole regime, this Ashtar regime arrival to Earth. So there's 2 events. What I want to pick up here is everything that happens while the bulk of the bride is here. Because after the day of the Lord begins, the sixth seal earthquake, the 144,000 are sealed on earth. The two witnesses arrive, begin their ministry on earth. Israel flees to their hiding spot. All this is going to take a little bit of time, space of time. Also during this time, you have the seven trumpets. And you have Revelation chapter 12, Satan being cast out of heaven and his minions. He's cast out of heaven. Then you have an asteroid hitting the earth. You have a comet hitting the earth. You have creatures from the Locust on the earth for 5 months. You could jump to Revelation chapter 9. They're tormenting mankind for 5 months. Then shortly after that, you have the 200 million creatures out of the Euphrates. These are not army tanks and helicopters. These are creatures. Creatures. 200 million of them. They're going to be on Earth at war with mankind. While that's going on, they're setting up for the enforcement of the mark of the beast and the worship of the beast. So while the world is in chaos from all these creature attacks coming out of nowhere, and this is partly from CERN and Lucifer stuffing them everywhere like he's done before, and then he's going to unleash them all on mankind, and then enforce the mark of the beast, and say that that's going to be protection from the creatures, because that's what he did before in his rebellion against the Father, back in the day, way back, Lucifer's rebellion in heaven. He did the same thing, folks, with creatures and the marking of angels, and he did all this stuff before. Nothing new under the sun. I wrote about this in my book, Interview with the Devil. So during this time, asteroid hits, comet hits, east coast of Brazil is gone, Cuba, Bahamas gone. All those places are going to be wiped out. The west coast, when the asteroid hits, it's going to hit outside Indonesia in the Indian Ocean or West Pacific, that area over there. It's going to cause 1 mile height tsunamis to hit our west coast. And this is the vision I had of this huge tsunami coming up over LA. I was actually standing on a highway out there. I think they call it Route 5 in my vision, and I saw this tsunami coming. And then in another vision, I had seen LA slide under the water. I mean, it's literally from the force of the tsunami waves, it just goes down. And so, the west coast of California will be wiped out. All of the islands in the Pacific will be wiped out. Hawaii will be wiped out. New Zealand is wiped out. I saw people in New Zealand fleeing to Australia. They're fleeing to Sydney, Australia. Sydney, Australia wasn't that affected. The northern part of Australia would get affected, but there's nothing up there. The bulk of Australia's population is on the coastlines and in the south, the southern coastlines, like our Gulf Coast, where our Gulf Coast is. That's where their Melbourne is. Our New York City is their Sydney, and our California is their Perth. And so their bulk of the populations in Australia are along the south and the coastlines east and west. And so the north part, when it gets pounded by tsunamis, it's not going to take out a whole lot. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage to Australia. It's going to literally wipe out New Zealand. New Zealand's going to go from an island to a rock. And so people from New Zealand are going to be fleeing to Australia for safety. Hawaii is pretty much wiped out. Maybe a rock of the main island is left. Philippines, there's like 5,000 islands in Philippines. They're not all destroyed. A lot of them are, but not the main population ones. And so that for some reason, I don't see a lot of destruction in the Philippines because the Lord has a lot of people there. And I know they've done work in getting orgone out, and so that's probably what protects a lot of those islands out there is the fact that the Christians were faithful and got the orgone out. And it's not necessarily in target for destruction and judgment like L.A. would be or San Francisco. the whole California thing, that would be, America's under judgment, and so it's not going to spare America. But when the comet hits the Atlantic, it'll pretty much, America will be, Florida will be destroyed. Florida's going to be destroyed, and Cuba and the Bahamas and on down, the whole east coast of South America. Brazil's going to be, that whole east side of South America is going to be destroyed because that comet is going to hit. If you drew a straight line from Florida all the way over to the middle of the Atlantic, that's pretty much, maybe not the middle, maybe closer to the America side, but that's where it's going to hit. And so it's going to do most of its destruction to the south of it, the south, Florida on down. I know Florida's under judgment. That's why it's not going to escape. Let's see. The southern coast of China will be wiped out. And what happens is a lot of these people who survive these destructions are going to be herded into civilian areas, into camps. And this is what you see in Hollywood movies, where they always show humans being herded into camps. That's what this is. People who survive the tsunamis and destruction in California will be herded off into camps. They want to keep control of the population. They don't want people running amok and populations running amok, because their ultimate goal is to control the humans left on Earth. And so they'll herd them into camps and act like, and under the pretense they're going to take care of them. They have food, they have water, they have shelter, blah, blah, blah. And this is just a holdover until they start enforcing the mark of the beast. All those in the camps who refuse to get the mark of the beast won't get any more food, won't get any more water or shelter. They'll be killed. And so it's get the mark and worship the beast or die. And so a lot of them will do either one, because if you refuse to bow to the beast, that's almost immediate death. They're not going to kill you for not accepting the chip, the mark of the beast. What they're going to do is slowly let you die, because you're not going to get any food or water or medicine or help unless you get the mark of the chip. And so they're going to bribe you for that one. But they will kill you for not worshiping the beast, bowing to him. And so they're going to have established times throughout the day where you have to stop and bow to the beast, an image or a statue or whatever it is, and don't be caught in public, folks. That's why I told you they're going to be rolling out guillotines in public squares and in parking lots, because people who refuse to bow to the beast, if you're caught in public when the worship time comes up, just take you out to the parking lot and cut off your head. That's what they're going to do. It's going to become very chaotic, very animalistic here, around the world, not just America. And so there is a space of time after all these destructions, the key to the bottomless pit being opened, and asteroid hitting, comet hitting, and then the enforcement of the beast and control of all digital currency, because it's all going to move to digital. I've warned you about that, how it all be controlled by computers and how useless that would be, because if the grid goes down, then we have nothing, because there's not going to be any computers running. Either way, they're going to enforce worship and the mark of the beast. So that would probably take about 6 months. I think the bulk of the population will either be completely chip implanted at that point or dead, because that phase of candle snuffing, what they call it, because when you accept the mark of the beast, it's going to eliminate all God's light out of you, any kind of human light out of you. You're immediately just a walking corpse. Your DNA changes. You're dead. And I think that's only going to take about 6 months, because shortly after, when the bowl judgments begin, one of the first bowl judgment on the world is onto those who accepted the mark of the beast. The first bowl judgment is noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. That's the first judgment of the bowl judgments. The second angel poured his vial upon the sea, and it became as blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. Judgment number 3, upon the rivers and fountains of water, they became blood. Upon the sun, the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. They are scorched with great heat. That means there is no more ozone layer protection. People are literally scorched with fire. That's why the sunlight becomes reduced to a third during the daylight hours. The day gets reduced to like 8-hour days, 6-hour days, and you have 18 hours of darkness. That's how bad it's going to be that the daylight is reduced. In Revelation chapter 15, verse 5, upon the sea of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnaw their tongues for pains, and their sores. They get full of these infectious sores and boils as a punishment for worshiping the beast and getting his chip, his mark, his name, his number, his image in and on your right hand or forehead. They're punished for that by these painful sores, and they're a great pain. And then upon the Euphrates River, it dries it up. Armies gathered to Armageddon. Armageddon begins at that point, where the Chinese make their way up the Euphrates River, the kings of the east, and they head to the valley of Megiddo, which is south of Jerusalem. And they all meet there for the second coming of Christ, what we call the Battle of Armageddon. And that is when Yahushua will arrive in the clouds with his people as they descend on Israel. So it's going to be an awesome event, the second coming of Christ. All the armies are destroyed. I always thought it was interesting that one of the first missions, international, that was done with the Orgone was the Father had these warriors go to Israel, and they not only Orgoned northern Israel at the mountains north of Israel, Mount Hermon, that was Orgoned, and the valley of Megiddo was Orgoned. Because all he has to do is increase that Orgone, and it would literally burn demonic and alien creatures alive. It just suffocates them, it burns them, and he can crank it up or he can turn it down. He can turn it up, turn it down. He can do whatever he wants with the Orgone. It's his energy. It's ether energy. That's what destroys these supernatural beings. But that's what we're waiting on, folks. We're here at the precipice. We're just waiting for the two events to happen. The one where Father's heavenly star just lights up the sky, and his first group of elect leave the earth. The Ashtar command will have their event where they will arrive to earth as angelic beings in their angelic costumes and whatever they're using. I mean, I hate them all, especially Sananda. They're arriving in their event. There's two events coming. Those are the two events. Then you have the day of the Lord, the sixth seal. Then you have the sealing of the 144,000 on earth, the sealing or the arriving of the two witnesses. Now, people ask who are the two witnesses, and I believe that they are Elijah and John. Because in Revelation chapter 10, there's this little obscure verse, the very last verse in Revelation chapter 10, where Father is talking to the Apostle John, and he says, "And he said unto me, Thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings." And that's never been fulfilled because John died shortly after he wrote the book of Revelation. And so I think John could return. And nobody ever saw John die. They tried to kill him and they couldn't kill him, so they put him as an exile on an island, on the island of Patmos. And they say he died on the island. Nobody knows. Mary ended up going back with the other apostles, I think it was James, because John was taking care of his mother at the time, Mary. And she stayed with John until he died or left. But either way, it seems to me like John is going to be prophesying to the United Nations, what we could call, before many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. Where do they all gather? The United Nations. So I think he'll come back with Elijah. People say it's, or it could be Enoch. Yeah, it could be. Enoch was taken off the earth. He never died. I hear people say Moses. It is not Moses. Moses died, and the Father buried him on the mountain. That's right in Exodus or Leviticus, wherever his death is. The Father buried him on the mountain, it says. So Moses is not coming back. He died. There's only 3 in the history of this planet that have not seen, that we know of physical death, and that's Enoch, Elijah, and John, the Apostle John. So, interesting. And maybe he just comes back and prophesies and then leaves. Maybe he doesn't play the role of a two witness. Maybe he just makes an appearance. I don't know. I don't get a thing out of the Father when I ask him about that. When I ask him who the 2 witnesses are, he says heaven and earth. His 2 witnesses are heaven and earth. I don't get anywhere. He has a sense of humor. And so a lot of things are going to happen. And one of the things the Father has had me doing all these years is preparing people for the Locust invasion. The Locust invasion. Because if you ever watched Locust, they came out with some Hollywood movies depicting this. Can't think of the name of it. I can't think of it. But they travel in groups. They descend out of the sky as a huge swarm of locusts, a huge swarm of creatures. They eat everything in sight, and then they leave to the next place to clean off. That's what they do. That's what locusts do. And that's what these creatures are going to do. They're going to descend on a city, on a region, on an area. They're going to pick it clean and then move on to the next. So imagine the chaos when you have 20 to 30 feet giants running through your hometowns, picking people off the streets just to eat them. Yeah, it's coming because I've seen it. I've seen it. That was one of the first visions I ever had. That was crazy. Giants just picking up people and ripping their limbs off. Putting the person back on the ground. The person's on the ground looking up at the giant. The guy's eating his leg. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I get PTSD just from my own visions. I'm kidding. The Father keeps me calm. So, stuff's coming, folks. It's coming. I hate to say it, but the least of your worries is the great earthquake. Because that's your sign. That's your sign. The 6th seal earthquake. That's your sign that we're now in the last days. The great day of the Lord is beginning. That's your sign. Because a lot of other things you may or may not see from your couch, because most of you never get off of it. Most of you are totally clueless and unaware of what's going on in the world, so you don't think we're anywhere in prophecy, or you don't understand what's going on, you don't grasp it. That's why the Father's giving us signs. Signs to watch for. When his light leaves the earth, you will no longer see a brilliant star in the southwest. He's gone. That's what Lucifer's waiting for. Lucifer's waiting for the Father to remove his light from the world. And you have the 6th seal earthquake, and it's also going to be dual with a huge economic collapse. It's going to be like a global economic collapse. Then you have a comet hitting, an asteroid hitting, and the creatures from the abyss swarming down on the world. And then you have the 200 million out of the Euphrates, and then somehow they get control of the economic situation and start enforcement of digital currencies and the mark of the beast, making people bow down and worship to the beast or get his mark and name. At this point, America is subservient to the bosses. I've told you where in Revelation 14 says they are prostrate, they are brought down, they are fallen, they are bowing to the new bosses of the world, which is these ascended masters. That's why you always see in these Hollywood movies where they kind of give you a glimpse into the future of these alien beings being the ones herding up humans. Yeah. I had a vision once. It was crazy, and I'm out in the Pacific. I'm always out in water somewhere. It's cold and it's wet, and I'm in the Pacific. I don't know if it's a dream or I'm actually there. Just, you know, to me, it's synonymous. I don't know. And there's this black helicopter thing, and it pulls me out of the water. And I'm looking towards California coastline, and it's just destroyed. And they're trying to go around and get survivors. So you think these are rescue helicopters going around trying to get survivors out of the water and people cleaning the stuff, and they're moving them into safe zones. Well, I happened to look at the thing flying in the helicopter. It wasn't even human. It was not human. There were two creatures in the front of this helicopter, and they were not human. And I remember as we were coming in for the landing at the safe zone, I jumped out of the helicopter. I wasn't going to be taken to the safe zone. You can do this in your dreams. I jumped out of the helicopter and never went in there. In fact, I worked on the outside to try to free the people that were in it, to get them out. But that's what's coming, folks. Sometimes your dreams and visions just get very, very real, so you won't forget them. And, you know, you don't. Stuff's coming. And all before the last rapture, because the last rapture, the Church of Philadelphia is taken off the earth. The bulk of the church today, who thinks that they're getting ready to go right now, will be here through all these judgments of the seals and trumpets. They will not go until shortly before the mark of the beast is enforced upon the whole world. So they will be here when the asteroid hits, when the comet hits. They'll be the ones out in the oceans looking for someone to rescue them. They'll be the ones drowning. They'll be the ones going through refinement and judgment because they're not being protected by the Father. They don't listen to them. They're not going to protect them. They're the last group to go, is what he called the Church of Philadelphia. And it's shortly before the mark of the beast is enforced. So they'll be here all the way up until the sixth trumpet. Seventh trumpet. There's a space of time, silence at that time, and that's the time they'll be taken, because the mark of the beast shortly begins after the seventh trumpet. So there's your sign. There's your sign. Everybody wants signs and ways. I can't give you dates. I don't go by dates. I go by signs. Things to watch for. So how do you know what group you're in? Well, if you don't go in the first one and you don't go shortly later in the second one, guess what? You better pray you make the third one. You better realize your faith hasn't been found perfect before the Lord, or he hasn't chosen you to escape all these things. And you're here until the last pickup, which is right before the mark of the beast is enforced. I hope you make that one. I know when the first group leaves, it's going to be magnificent, loud and proud. It's going to be a bold event. I don't know about the other two. He hasn't told me anything about them, other than those are times groups will be leaving. So I can't tell you if it's going to be. They're not going to be loud and proud events. They're just going to happen. They're just going to be taken off the earth. So, a couple things to watch for, and like I've said, enjoy the Southwest Star while it's here. That is the Father's light upon the world. That's going to be removed this year. So enjoy it now while you can see it. They want you to think it's Venus. It is not Venus. Two events coming: the elect leaving, the Ashtar Command, Chinese elders, Galactic Federation, Ascended Masters, extreme idiots, whatever you want to call them. Their event is coming. So they're going to push it. I would think they're going to push it because they're going to be in detainment until they do. And they are not having fun in detainment when they can't harm, torture, kill, and eat innocent humans. They don't like being bored. You know, the New Agers want you to think that these are malevolent beings and they're here to help mankind. Yeah, they're feasting on mankind. That's what they do. That's why they're in detainment until they actually do something, because they're having too much fun in their destruction and gore of mankind. And we're fed up with it. So look for the RV, because that's the sign that they're going to get their regime rolling, which is a revaluation of currencies. At least see it in America, maybe worldwide. Either one will be a sign. Their arrival would be a sign. One of those three events. And then the rest, they'll be all out of detainment and here on Earth. And then shortly after, you'll probably see the sixth seal, the great earthquake. Because don't forget, I know they're pounding my chest now, and I'm heating up with these satellite weapons or something. Getting extremely hot in here. Don't forget that I've always stated that the Sananda and Maitreya, the Islamic beast, and the Christian beast, Sananda, who comes playing the fake Jesus, that they're also the pale and black horsemen. And so when they're here, it will complete the apocryphal horsemen and their riders, famine, and plagues, and the forces of hell, which was represented by Sananda, the pale horseman, who also plays Allah, and then there's the Imam, Maitreya. It's just going to be a zoo, folks. It's, at the same time we're looking at plagues wiping out a third of mankind that we've never seen before. Flesh-eating plagues, Ebola, people literally vomiting black liquid. These kinds of plagues are coming. We've never had them on Earth before, so you can't really describe the horrors of them. But we can get an idea how Ebola and things like that. So all these things are coming, folks. So the only place you're safe is in the arms of the Father. Ask Him to pull you out of all of your false teachings, all of your witchcrafts, all your apostasies. Ask Him to teach you the truth in all things. Sit at His feet. Ask Him to throw everything that is wrong out of you and to refine you, because you'd rather go through refinement now than be stuck here to go through it later. Anyway, folks, I'll be back on Wednesday at noon. Till then, don't forget to support your favorite ministry on the planet. You can go to SherryShriner.com and click on the donation page. Till Wednesday, everybody. God bless.